I'd like to call this meeting of the Cherokee Village City Council to order. Please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a moment of silent prayer, please. Amen. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Rowland. Here. Mississippi.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Hafley. Ishmael.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
And Martin. 407.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. I need to add a third item. It doesn't require action. It's more informational on litigation. I have a motion to approve.
How much we approve?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mrs. Rowland to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Agenda is approved. First item under old business is rezoning of commercial property 1, CPM 1 to commercial property 2, CP 2. And we have an ordinance. Clerk, do you want to read that ordinance or do you want me to read it? Okay. An ordinance relating to the amendment of zoning regulations for the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Whereas the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas has adopted zoning regulations for the orderly development of the city and the protections of the citizens of the city, and whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas held a public meeting on October 3rd, 2022 for the purpose of considering proposed amendments and modifications of the zoning regulations adopted by the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas. Now therefore, and that should be a B rather than a V, I see. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, Section 1, Zoning Regulations, that the amended zoning regulations for the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, amending zoning of certain property in the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, currently commercial property 1, CP1 to commercial property 2, CP2, plat map and legal description are attached, prepared by the City of Cherokee Village Planning and Zoning Commission and adopted by it on October the 3rd, 2022, after a public hearing was held on October the 3rd, 2022, are hereby adopted. 3 copies of the zoning regulations as amended are on file with the Office of the City Clerk and are available for public inspection. Section 2, penalties. Any person, firm, or corporation found guilty of violating any of the provisions of this ordinance shall be fined for each such violation as provided by law. Emergency clause. If being necessary for the continued orderly planning of the city of Cherokee Village, such planning being necessary for the preservation of the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of the City Council of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas recognizes and declares an emergency to exist, and this ordinance being necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, comfort, convenience, morals, safety, and welfare of the City of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, shall be in full force and effect for the date of its adoption.
One quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Thompson.
Directly after the emergency clause, that colon, is that if or it?
I don't know. Mr. Abel, did you write this?
I didn't write those parts. It should be, the first word of that should be it, and then there's another typo.
Okay. Thanks for that correction. Any questions on this ordinance? If not, I'd entertain,
I make a motion to approve the ordinance as written with the noted spelling corrections.
you suspend the reading of,
And to suspend the reading of the ordinance 3 times.
we have to have a suspension, don't we?
Yeah. You have to.
So essentially, that's what you want to suspend the readings, but we need to, and I need a second on that.
I second.
Motion, Mr. Thompson, second, Mr. Ishmael, to suspend the required number of readings. Do we need a roll call vote? Clerk?
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Rowland.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion for adoption of the ordinance.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. Tatum for adoption of this amended zoning regulation ordinance.
Mayor, it was actually Chuck that
Chuck,
seconded.
okay, I'm sorry. Speak up, Chuck. You're talking to my band here? Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Tatum,
Yes.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Martin, Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, the ordinance has been adopted. Is there any action wish to be taken on the emergency clause?
Make a motion, we accept the emergency clause.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Ishmael, second, Mr. Thompson, to approve the emergency clause. Roll call vote, please.
Ishmael,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Rowland,
Yes.
Christopher,
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, this ordinance goes into effect immediately. Next item is ordinance to amend zoning codes regarding storage building. You want me to read that one too, clerk? Or do you want to read it?
I've got a couple issues with
This is the one. An ordinance to amend Cherokee Village zoning code and for other purposes. Be it ordained by the Cherokee Village City Council that the zoning code of the Cherokee Village, Arkansas is amended as follows. Section 1, zoning code of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, section 19, accessory uses paragraph C, District A, R1 and R2, subsection 5, storage building, is deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following language. Beginning new language, amended language. Number 5, storage buildings. On a single resident lot, where a resident is located one building or shed, not exceeding 12 by 20 feet in dimensions, is not exceeding 13 feet in height. The storage building location may be in the rear yard or the side yard, but not forward of either front corner of the residence, for purpose of storage, but not for residential use. Metal storage buildings are permitted, provided that the color of the siding and the roofing matches the residence, and that the gauge of the metal shall be 29 or stronger. All storage building must be installed by a licensed installer according to the manufacturer guidelines on property. Prepared surface to be level and not in direct contact with the ground. Garages and sheds cannot exceed 12% of the lot size or equal to 1,200 square feet. He/she sheds can be no larger in size than 240 square feet and be secured to a concrete slab foundation. Portable sheds cannot exceed 12 by 20 feet in dimension and not exceeding 13 feet in height. The shed shall have flooring of gravel or chat. Cinder block or garden stone of at least 3 inches of thickness must be used for support. Due to the unique history of a 3-acre lot size of Cherokee Acre subdivision, The size limitations of section 19, paragraph 5, storage buildings, shall be modified for residents of the Cherokee Acres to permit one storage building or private garage not exceeding the total of 1,000 square feet and not exceeding 25 feet in height, provided that such building conforms to all of the other provisions of this zoning code and the amended and substitute bill of the assurance. Cherokee Acre subdivision dated November 1998. In addition, in Cherokee Acre subdivision, a second storage building not exceeding 240 square feet shall be permitted. For purpose of this section, the term storage building shall include use associated with utility buildings subject to all restrictions provided by the zoning code, in the zoning code. End of the new amended language. In no other respects whatsoever except as set forth in this ordinance is the zoning code of Cherokee Village, Arkansas in any manner altered or changed. Section 2. If any provision of this ordinance of this application, therefore, to any person or circumstances is held invalid, such invalidity shall be affected other provisions or applications of this ordinance, which can be effected without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provision of this ordinance are declared to be servable. Emergency clause. It is deemed necessary for the contained orderly planning of the city and Cherokee Village. Such planning being necessary for the provision of the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of the city of Cherokee Village, the city and city council of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas, recognize and declares an emergency to exist. And this ordinance being necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, comfort, convenience, moral safety, and welfare of the city of Cherokee Village, Arkansas shall be in full force and effective from the date of the implement of the zoning code adopted by ordinance 2017-4.
I would notice that there are a couple of grammatical errors there. In that first paragraph, under storage buildings, down near the bottom, that sentence that begins, all storage build, it should be plural. It should be storage buildings, not building. Must be installed by licensed installer. And then down in the third paragraph, second line, that should be, drop the ing, it should be exceed, not exceeding. Would be correct?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to talk about this. I've
Okay.
got several issues here.
All right, discussion. Mr. Tatum?
Yeah, on the first thing, in the first paragraph, it's not to exceed 13 foot in height. On the last paragraph, it's saying no more than 25 feet in height.
Well, that's just in regards to, to me, it looks like it's in regards to Cherokee Acres.
Yeah.
For the 25 feet of
Cherokee.
That only-
I think that's a little excessive, don't we?
Well, but
Did you do the math on it?
There's 3 buildings on that street that already exceed that. Alexander has one next to his house, and there are 2 others further down. They use it for the tractors and stuff. They actually have big equipment out there.
the other thing that I was looking at, and I was trying to go back to my algebra days, but if I'm looking at this correctly, I'm just imagining somebody that has an RV.
Right.
So if that RV is theoretically 14 feet in height, that means you got a 16-foot door, or 16-foot wall. Okay, so you've already got a wall if you're going to accommodate a 14-foot door.
Right.
Then I'm thinking you got a 16-foot wall.
The 17.
And then if you're running just a normal 312 pitch or even a 412, now you're looking at a 16-foot wall, and now to get a proper pitch on it, let alone if you want to go get a 612 pitch on it, I think you're getting right at that 25-foot mark pretty quickly.
I didn't know there was already buildings out there that big, that's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
On the second thing, it says all storage buildings must be installed by a licensed installer. Only problem I have with that, if you go to Home Depot and buy one of those little 8x10 sheds, are we gonna require them to get a licensed installer to put that together, or can they put it together themselves?
It's a good question.
I mean, we can't make it tough on everybody. I understand why it's in there. I totally understand why it's in there. We don't want somebody just throwing up something that's not up to code and don't know what they're doing, but I don't know. Would you have a problem with somebody putting an 8x10 shed up you get at Lowe's, Home Depot that has the instructions?
But
If
if,
it's on a
if
proper foundation?
Lowe's or Home Depot are delivering it, I mean, are you talking about one to build on
They
site?
come in a box.
Okay.
You put them together, you can get them all the way up to 10x12.
So are they
Yeah,
are they
same stuff.
referring to the licensed installer once you exceed a certain size, or that they're
There's
saying
no
all the way
designation
across?
in there though.
Mr. Akers, do you have a response on that?
I mean, 12 by 20, I mean, that's a pretty big building, I mean, that's a storage shed. I mean, not many folks are gonna build that by themselves, so
It
I'm sure
says
that.
all storage buildings. They don't just specify that specific one, it says all storage buildings.
All storage buildings must be installed by a licensed installer in accordance with manufacturing guidelines, properly prepared certificate.
Does that give them the out though, if you're talking about according to a manufacturer's guidelines, if the manufacturer's guidelines sits back and says, you know, here's a DIY or DIY type of project, I mean, are we making that distinction, or I guess I'm thinking about a difference between a metal storage building that's coming in. I don't know whether you wouldn't do red steel on 12 by 20. Surely not.
No, but I mean, personally, I haven't seen a lot of homeowners building themselves, not that they can't, I'm not saying they can't do it, but if it gets to that 29 building, I don't see a resident doing it by themselves.
Okay, and the next one here says portable sheds cannot exceed 12 by 20. The shed must have flooring of gravel or chat. Most of the portable buildings you come in have flooring of,
Well, I think
Joist and wood.
I think they're talking about some of those pole barn type.
right? But there needs to be a distinction there because if you bring one in, like from Eagle Barns or whatever, yeah, they need to be sitting on gravel or chat, but it don't say that there. It says the flooring.
I think you can buy some that own it for them. I mean,
I know.
they come in different models, and so you can get one.
But see, that excludes the people that, bring one in. No, I'm trying to make your life difficult. This may not be ready to sign, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to just take a look at the structures that are there, these large structures that Rob mentioned, and just go measure and look at the dimensions, whether they're, height and, what material they've already got in place? Because this subdivision was incorporated, how many years ago? I mean, we reached out and we incorporated Cherokee Acres that wasn't previously part of the city. So a lot of those structures may have been there, before the annexation of Cherokee Acres.
It might be what I'm saying though, if somebody wants to bring something new in, I don't want them to not be able to bring it in because the floor has to be gravel or chat and it's already got, joists and decking down,
Yeah, bald eagle basically
Yeah.
coming in with 6x6,
Yeah. And then I can understand it being sitting on gravel or chat or block or whatever, but it shouldn't be the flooring that has to be gravel or chat. I can understand if it didn't have a floor in there. But that just excludes anybody from being able to buy a prefab, want to bring it in, because they can't be within regulations.
So
Can we not just put in there that the shed must have foundation of of gravel or chat, and then put a sentence in there to specify on the flooring, gravel, chat, or pre-made flooring that comes?
who authored this?
Pardon?
Who authored this revision?
We put this together and then we sent it to, John looked at it and it came back. This is the information that Angela gave us.
So this came from Angela? I would say, I guess I would agree with Jeff on it. I think it needs to go back for a revision. Is this gonna put any property owner in a bind if we go back and, I think we need to rewrite it.
I have a question on let's see if I can say it properly this time. The he shed, she shed, there's no definition to define that. And I don't understand, if your building is within the certain requirements, why do we care if someone's using it for that purpose? Like, I don't understand why there's a specification on that. It's just not necessary.
I'm with you on that. I mean, when I read it, it's like, what happens if you move into a house and it's got a shed on it and you just want to turn it into a she shed? I mean,
That's my whole point, yeah.
Another problem I have with that one, a lot of people get those prefab buildings like I was talking to, is use a he or she shed. Why does it need to be secured to a concrete slab or foundation?
I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
That makes
I
no
just think
sense.
we're trying to be overcomplicated here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you stay within the dimensions and the measurements, why are we getting people's business about, if you want to go hang out in your shed, go hang out in your shed.
As long as it's approved, they gotta get a permit anyway. I'm
Right.
saying, well, if it's approved by him, what does it matter?
Yeah, you want to secure it because the wind shear, you don't want to just leave it sitting on a slab because there's nothing holding it down. So you want to secure it as best you can because,
I don't know, some of us been sitting out at Bald Eagle Barns for 5 or 6 years.
yeah, I don't expect the inside of them. They could be secured. I'll go inside of them, but I would suggest that we would secure them in some way.
I'm all for making the right language, but I just, like she said, I think we're overcomplicating it. That's my personal opinion.
I agree.
So do we want to strike some of this out or send it back?
I don't think we need to get into trying to, write, the ordinance. I just think I personally think it's not ready for prime time.
Agreed.
It just needs
Agreed.
to go back.
Yeah.
Well, I'll entertain a motion that we return this for rewrite.
Second. First.
You move it?
Yeah.
Okay, I need a second.
But
Motion, Mr. Tatum, second, Mr. Thompson, that proposed ordinance be returned for rewrite, and if done so in time, we'll have it on the agenda for our normal meeting this month. Probably a roll call vote, please.
Thompson?
yes,
Smith?
Yes.
Rowland?
Yes.
Christopher?
Yes.
Tatum?
Yes.
And Ishmael?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, item 3, litigation. Unfortunately, the city has been served a summons as of yesterday. We're being sued by SID as a third-party defendant in the litigation between them and Cherokee Village Waterworks. I've got about a 60-page document on my desk, which includes their rationale from their attorney. I've contacted the Municipal League and sent some information to them, and I'll mail a copy of that summons to them tomorrow, and they will then make a decision whether they want to handle our case or not. If not, then we will need to look for another legal firm to do it. So,
What's the reasoning for bringing us into it?
the rationale, as I read it, is based upon the Kronkowski litigation and the settlement, and that no longer was SID required to pay the water company for the fire hydrants in the water. And their attorney is making the argument, since the city provides the fire service, that's now our responsibility to do that.
Can they just charge us for the water we use?
They could, which would be, actually they should be charged, and this is my opinion. If you have a fire and you go put it out, hopefully most homeowners have insurance. The fire truck can measure the volume, the amount of gallons they use in fighting a fire. So that could give them a close approximation on whatever the cost per gallon is, then they could charge that to the homeowner, and then the insurance company would pay it. The other thing is that the water company could also assess a fee to every homeowner that has water hookup. It'd probably have to be that for so much annually to go towards defraying the cost. That's another possibility. The sad thing about it is you've got three entities, you got two entities here in Cherokee Village. You got SID and the Waterworks. Why couldn't they sit down and work this out instead of jumping on their lawyers right away and pointing fingers, and then they drag the city into it as well? That's not good, Mr. Christophe.
Are they seeking us to replace the $175,000 a year?
Yes, they are.
And put that to the water company, or us just absorb that as part of fire department work?
They're wanting us to pay the money.
Absolutely crazy.
I don't know, we could sit here probably the rest of the evening discussing pros and cons. I mean, it's a contract that existed between the two parties before the city even incorporated. The fact, and of course, I don't know who the attorney is now for representing SID, but, I guess I look at it as if Mrs. Rowland had a contract with Mr. Smith and they got into a dispute and they wanted to bring me into the dispute just because I'm here, makes about as much sense. But the other issue is, the contract, you got to get into the contract itself. And the contract itself, I read this contract twice at the request of Bill Curzon. The first time was just a cursory review. The second time I went line by line, word by word. One, it's a very strong contract. Hence, the inability of SID to get out of this contract for years, because they did try to get out of it previously, prior to the Kronkowski lawsuit. But the Kronkowski lawsuit did not mention this contract at all in the suit. But the other aspect of it is that this $175,000 fee that hasn't changed in the entire, there's no elevation clause, there's no inflation clause, it's been a flat fee. But the whole intent of that, as I read the contract, and I'm not an attorney, but I drafted a lot of contracts in my time. And when you look at it, it's not just the fact of delivering water. That's not the issue. The water department guarantees that when you hook up to that meter, you're not only going to get water, but you're going to get pressure. So you have a liability issue for what's behind the meter, or behind the hydrant. And so that involves water tanks, pipes, the entire infrastructure of that. And to me, the thing that gets really interesting is that SID will sit here, and I'm not trying to pick on them, but they filed this lawsuit, and then they turn around and they ask the water department to do a favor for them on one of the golf courses. And you sit back here and go, you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm going to get along with my neighbor and then I'm going to go pick a fight. And so it gets back to your comment about why they can't simply sit down instead of just throwing lawyers at one another. And now they want to bring us in on this thing. And I'm tempted to file a counter motion, or however way you would do it, against SID and sue them for time and money spent, that if we prevail on this thing, that they got to reimburse us. They take away, this lawsuit takes away a substantial amount of revenue to the city, and I get it. And we could sit here and argue pros and cons of that, whatever. It is what it is, but I don't think you move the city forward by picking another fight.
Well, I think at the end of this, we all have to remember, no matter who prevails out of three entities, the taxpayers lose. They're the ones who pay for every bit of it.
Exactly.
Exactly. Whether it's the water company, SID, or the city.
So do we need to move on this tonight, Mr. Mayor, or are we?
No, I'll just wait. Hopefully I'll have an answer by the November meeting.
Just
If we
out
have
of
to do
curiosity,
that.
do you know the attorney that is advising SID?
Do I know him? Personally, no. I know who he is
Do you know his name?
on the lawsuit. Elmore. Philip Elmore. The firm is Qualamon out of Little Rock.
Out of Little Rock. Just want to have notes so that I don't engage them on anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's all I have, and we'll know more on the
Motion we adjourn.
next week, or week after next, I should say. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Motion, Mr. Tatum, second by Mr. Christophe. We adjourn. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.